Hello, and a warm welcome to Empowering Cities, Local Energy Action Planning for a Competitive Future. Thank you for being with us today. A truly local energy transition needs local energy action planning. That's the phrase that we're going to discuss today. What is local energy action planning? Why is it needed? How does it work? To help me talk through today, I have 6 speakers representing different local actors within the local energy system. I'm joined by the cities of Ghent and Antwerp, who are working on local energy action planning on the ground. We're joined by the DSO Fluvius, who are working with Ghent and Antwerp on that local energy action planning. We have E.DSO, who are going to give us a European perspective on how cities and distribution system operators can work together on a local energy transition. And then we have representatives of some of the new market actors within the local energy transition. We have SmartEn representing flexibility providers, and we have the University Centre for Energy Efficient Buildings talking about energy communities and energy sharing opportunities. So a really great panel going all across the local energy transition. I'm very excited to hear what they have to say today. I'm your moderator for today. My name is Benedict. I'm a local energy systems consultant, innovation consultant at BAX. We're an innovation consultancy helping cities and other organizations pilot and scale up innovations for mission-driven innovations, including the energy transition, the mobility transition, and others. We're here today with a project called COPPA. This is a European innovation initiative to design local energy action planning solutions, trying to help local actors like cities and distribution system operators collaborate better through new collaboration mechanisms to deliver the local energy transition faster in a way that's more affordable and is competitive. We have 6 cities participating: Ghent, Antwerp, Varberg, Fredericia, Dordrecht, and Bremen. And we're trying to tackle some of the flashpoints, the key challenges in the local energy transition, whether that's the electrification of business parks, e-mobility, the production of green hydrogen, trying to make sure that we have planning solutions that incorporate all of these important issues. Okay, let me just set the scene for 5 minutes or so before I move on to our speakers. This will be a familiar story probably to everyone in this room. But we're in the middle of an energy transition that is increasingly decentralized, moving from centralized fossil fuel-based energy production to a system where every house, every car has the potential to produce clean, renewable energy or contribute in some way to a local energy system. If we look at the REPowerEU plan, what does this mean? Well, it means that around 70% of additional renewable capacity will be connected at the local distribution level. That's at least 500 gigawatts, according to Euroelectric. There's a lot of additional capacity that we need to add in at distribution level. We also need to find space for 50 million heat pumps and 70 million electric vehicles by 2030 if we're going to hit our targets. It's an incredible amount of extra capacity to add in at the local level. And it's also going to be hundreds of billions of euros of additional investment into the grids. So this is a fairly abstract, I suppose, way of looking at what's happening right now, the move to decentralized systems. But what I would argue is this is a story about the cities that we live in. It's a story of the car parks where we park our cars, the houses in which we live, the businesses in which we work. The energy transition is coming towards the city level, and we need new collaboration mechanisms to make sure that we're ready for that. Just a quick note on some of the local opportunities, because I think it's important to say this isn't just a challenge, but a huge opportunity at local level. We see opportunities for an accelerated city climate transition. All cities are trying to accelerate how they work on the climate. And we see examples, for example, like Aarhus in Denmark, who have been able to create their own publicly owned climate company to increase solar penetration on their rooftops. Through self-consumption, they're reducing their energy bills and accelerating the climate transition in one go. We see the opportunity to increase the competitiveness of local businesses as well. In Dordrecht, they're working on a smart energy hubs program with their distribution system operator SmartEn. And this is allowing them to create a low, stable energy price. That's the goal at least. to make sure that their businesses can be competitive at a European scale. We also see a massive opportunity to make energy more affordable. It's one of the key issues right now in Brussels is the affordability of energy. We see organizations like ASTA, it's a group of social housing providers in Flanders, that have managed to put over 100,000 solar panels on social housing rooftops. The tenants don't pay anything upfront for that, and they get access to cheap electricity produced on their rooftop, down to 17 cents per kilowatt hour in some cases. So this local transition enables huge affordability benefits. And we also see the ability to create what we call a local energy economy, where the value of energy produced isn't exported to a different country or far away from the city, but is kept within the city. We have organizations like CleanWatts, which are helping to set up energy communities in which the value of the energy can stay locally and can be enjoyed by the households, local households, but also the businesses or the hospitals that have the solar panels on the roofs. So huge opportunities. If you want to know exactly how big it is, we have a little estimation tool that we've been developing in Copper called the City Energy Bill. If you think about all the sources of energy that are used within a city, for electricity, for heating, for petrol, diesel, all forms, you try and total up the value, you get the value of a city energy system. This is just an estimation, but you quickly realize that there's hundreds of millions of euros being spent on energy at a city level every year. There's a huge opportunity there for if we had city-scale initiatives to meaningfully reduce the cost of energy across a city or to bring that value back locally. So a little question for you to think about afterwards and maybe discuss in the break. What do you think the energy bill of your city is? It's a question we like to ask a lot. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is threefold. The first thing is that to make sure this energy transition happens, we need every urban development plan to be thinking energy first. We're going from a situation where you used to plan for buildings or plan for new developments and then ask for the connection at the end, to now having to plan for the energy first, making sure that your new developments fit within European targets, but also the targets you fit as a city. So this is really a role for municipalities. They need to start integrating energy into their urban planning initiatives to make sure everything they do fits within this energy transition. This also has obviously a huge effect on the grid. If every new city plan requires new capacity requirements from the grid, we need to make sure that grid planning reflects this new urban development planning. And there are issues with the observability from the DSO perspective of what's going on in the grid. So we need this communication between the urban planners and the DSOs to make sure that everything that's planned is actually feasible and sensible. So the grid planning needs to reflect, but actually also probably to inform the urban development plans, so that when we're urban planning, we can build a system that's more efficient. Ultimately, it's bill payers that pay for the grid investments, right, at the end of the day. So from an affordability point of view, making sure grid planning aligns is really important to avoid wasted expenditure. That's a role for DSOs. And we also need a lot more local generation and a lot more flexibility to make the system work. Now, municipalities actually can provide some of this. They have their own rooftops, they have their own generation. But really, we see this as a role for a new class of market actors. And that can be anyone from a homeowner, a housing association, a mobility provider. We need to find a way to unlock all of these potential market actors into the system. And also, it's worth saying, this is all essentially one local energy system. We need to coordinate the work between municipalities and DSOs specifically, and find a way to incorporate all of these new market actors together. So what is the coordination mechanism that will make this work? Well, we hope, and that's what we're working on in Copper, that will be something like local energy action planning. Local energy action planning, I put the definition here, it's still a work in progress, but it's an approach where municipalities set a cross-departmental energy approach so that the city aligns across all its urban plans what it wants for the energy transition, and it creates politically backed formal collaboration agreements with DSOs while trying to add in these new market actors into the system. Okay, so kind of three components which we'll go through. As I say, one component is at municipality level. We recently launched a study, which I'll show you a bit later, but there's often a case where city departments will plan for the energy transition in silos. So they won't necessarily talk to each other about what the plans are. We need a way to align cross-departmentally, and also for cities to get political buy-in for this. There are going to be a lot of political decisions to make to ensure this energy transition happens. And we need to make sure that politicians are on board for whatever these plans are. We also need a collaboration with municipalities and DSOs. We've talked about this a little bit earlier, making sure all city development plans are connected to grid planning, that these two organizations will talk to each other and work together as strategic partners. And we need to find a way to facilitate all these new market actors to unlock this flexibility and this new capacity. What does this look like on the ground? Well, there are a couple of best practices we've found. Actually, some of these are outside of the COPPER project. But one example is like the city of Arnhem in the Netherlands. They've created an Accelerating the Energy Transition program. So that sits independently of its energy departments. And this program advises the different departments on how to accelerate the energy transition, while also working directly with the aldermen, the council people of the city, to make sure that they get fast political decisions in the energy transition. They've also created a strategic partnership with their DSO, Leander, and Leander are contributing around 10 full-time employees to these strategic city projects. So this is one example of how you can organize a municipality and a DSO relationship at the same time through a program. We also see an example in Finland with Espoo and the DSO Kiruna. They've created an official memorandum of understanding signed at political level. And every 6 months, their mayor will meet with the CEO of Kiruna to discuss strategic level energy initiatives. This is fairly new, and it's the kind of political integration into energy planning that we haven't seen before, and we need more of. And finally, this one is part of COPPER. In the city of Varberg in Sweden, the municipality actually 100% owns the DSO, which gives them more flexibility to work on this. But they've created a working group between the DSO, the municipality, and the municipally owned companies to set goals and objectives for the energy transition. This has existed for less than a year, but they're already finding new ways to work together and to set strategic objectives together. If you're interested in local energy action planning or some of the best techniques we're seeing, Climate Alliance and BACS have recently launched a study on this, published a study as part of COPPER. It highlights at least 15 municipalities and DSOs who are leading the charge on local energy action planning. I'd encourage you to give it a read at some point. But today, I'm going to pass over to my speakers. We've got some really interesting on-the-ground examples, as well as some high-level European insights into how we can make local energy action planning happen. We're going to hear from municipalities who are working on local energy action planning on the ground. We're going to hear from the DSO perspective, both on the ground and at European level. And we're going to hear from the new market actors on how they're going to integrate into this local energy transition. I'm now going to pass over to our speakers. I'm going to start with the city of Ghent. Welcome Kathy to the stage.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for attending this workshop on this very nice day in Brussels. I hope you all get energized by us talking about all these topics. Just a quick dive into history. You see a photograph. It's from 1970s, and it predicts the future. It says all electric. And I think we are now evolving towards an energy system that's built on mostly electricity. A little dive into Ghent and our climate policy. I think we were one of the first Belgian cities to sign the Covenant of Mayors in 2009. That was climate change was for us then, as a city administration, a new topic. So we had to do a lot of research, a lot of new people working for the administration on that topic. So we drew up a first climate plan, and we are now at the end of our third climate plan, with the goal of 40% reduction on the CO2 emissions. And we had local elections last year, so now we are drafting up a fourth climate plan with the ambition to reduce to 55%. Let me quickly take you into some numbers of our policy work and our results on the ground. We work on energy renovation of our houses in Ghent. So we set a goal to reduce 30% of our energy consumption by households by 2030. At this point, we did a European project on the ELENA fund called Supra. And within the 5 years of that project, we visited like 20,000 homes, and we guided them, a lot of them, through renovations. And one of the conclusions on that project was, for every euro we invested in guidance of our inhabitants, they invest 17 euros into investments in their house in energy renovations. So at this point, the numbers are from 23. Our households use more than 20% less energy than in 2018. We don't know if that's a very stable reduction because of the energy crisis. We are looking forward to the new numbers. We also work on companies. We are a harbor city, and we provide them with energy coaching. And also there, for every euro we as a local government invest in that campaign, they invest 10 euros back in investments to reduce their energy bills or to boost up their renewable energy production. We also have a target on renewables. So we want, from 2020 till 25, we want to double the amount of solar panels on our roofs. Glad to say that we reached that goal. We almost tripled it. But in the end, the goal was, in 2020, set to reduce 40% of the CO2 emissions. We are not there yet. We're putting in a lot of effort. We're working together with a lot of stakeholders, but we're not there yet. And if you see the goal, 2030 at minus 55%, we are far away from that goal. Let me quickly take you into what we are used to do, like for more than 10 years, is working on housing renovations, and what the challenges now that we are tackling with the copper project on our distribution grids. Renovations. The problem is well known, also the solution is known. It's based on individual dwellings, apartment blocks. The energy transition grid is like on a much higher level. We have experience like almost 20 years. The copper project is only like 1.5 years running. On renovation, we work together with 6 city departments, city services. We only started to know what services and external stakeholders could be involved in energy grid solutions, and we now are on 12 different services. And here, in the first one, renovation, the effect is only on the individual building, and energy, its effect on the total local energy network. So, without a flexible and resilient energy network, all our stakeholders, all our inhabitants, all our companies, they can't electrify. So, as Ben just said, we need to work closely together with our DSO. And in Flemish context, that's not something we are used to. I think like 30 years ago, it was like that. And then we had liberalization of the energy network. And so we have to now come closer towards each other again. So we are working on that. because of the copper project. There is also an ambition set by the European government that all cities will have to make heating and cooling plans. We can't do that on our own as a city administration. We need to work together, not only with our DSO, but as Ben just said, with all internal and external stakeholders within our city limits, city boundaries. What's the cost? That's also why we need to work together. We have some data. Our DSO has other data. We have to combine those data and design the network with as low cost as possible, so the bills for our inhabitants and our companies doesn't get high. So one of the first steps we are taking within the copper project is to align the work of the city administration and the DSO, and to hopefully have some spokes on both sides, so we can understand each other better and we can work on a more efficient way together. So we are now testing out the methodology developed by the copper project to set up a local energy action plan for a neighborhood. We know the internal stakeholders, maybe not all, but most of them we know. And we now have to go to the external stakeholders to work together and make this local energy action plan. So, oh wow, 1 minute and a half. I have. Yeah, okay. So I want to introduce you to Bram. He's the project leader of our copper project, and he prepares all the things I'm going to say today. So if you have any questions, you can talk to Bram. Please. Thank you. So thank you.
Super, thank you very much, Kathy. Yeah, really interesting work going on in Ghent, developing a local energy action plan for an entire neighbourhood. I know there's a lot of work that goes into coordinating all the internal departments and all of the external stakeholders. And this single point of contact idea between the city and the distribution system operator is a nice model, which I think almost any large city can learn from. Next up, we have Antwerp. Do we have Vincent in the room? We do. Fantastic. I'm going to pass over to Vincent.
Yes. Good morning, everybody, and apologies, Ben, for arriving a bit too late. I'm from the city of Antwerp. My name is Vincent van Rijsegem, and I will talk to you about the climate ambitions of the city of Antwerp, the copper project, and what we are doing in the left bank district of our city. Just as the city of Ghent, we have an ambitious program, and many other European cities, we're working towards climate neutrality by 2050 and a minus 50% reduction of our CO2 emissions compared to 2005. And there's always a sort of polite rivalry between Antwerp and Ghent. We also adopted the convention, the Mayor's Convention, in 2009, so we were the two first cities in Belgium. Now, this is very ambitious for the city of Antwerp. Right now, as you can see on the green line, we are still on the road towards our target by 2030. But the last emissions, they date from 2022. We always have a 2-year delay to collect all the data we need for this emission inventory that we publicize every year. For 2023, we will still be on the target, but just as the city of Ghent, it will be a big challenge to reach this goal by 2030. And if that wasn't ambitious enough, we also applied for the call on 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 from the European Commission. But a bit more special for the city of Antwerp compared to the other 100 cities that were selected is that we did not inscribe the whole city. We made a plan about a specific part of our city, which is the left bank or linkeroever in Dutch. And it's the ambition of the city to be climate neutral in this part of the city by 2030. It's a small part of the city, but still it won't be easy to achieve this ambition. And we're actually, why did we choose just a part of the city and not the whole city like all the other European cities? Well, first of all, because our politicians asked us to make a proposal that is also reachable by 2030. And well, if you are already communicating about 2050 as a target for the whole city, and then suddenly you decrease this with 20 years, well, we couldn't sell that. So we went for the left bank, and now we are going to use the left bank as a sort of living lab to experiment with innovative projects. And because of this mission label, we can make use of a network of experts like the Capital Hub for interesting funding opportunities, and also other calls that are launched by the European Union. Now, to make the work that has been done in the left bank a bit more concrete, within Copper, the Copper project that Cathy already talked about, we are also focusing mostly on the left bank region. And in 2019, we made a sort of heat zonation map that you can see on the right for the whole city to see which type of sustainable heating is the most interesting in specific neighborhoods. So the more dark red a neighborhood is highlighted, the more interesting it is to invest in a district heating network. For the other areas, it's more interesting to go for the all-electric scenario with heating pumps. So to make this a bit more specific, we are currently working on a local energy action plan where we also focus on heating and cooling. So we are making a more specific heat transition plan where we also take into account what has to be done to work towards good renovations of the buildings that you have on the left bank, and how to work with the community there. And this will all be in the local energy action plan, and then laterwards we will also make this action plan for all the other neighborhoods in Antwerp. Now, to do this properly, we need a good relationship with our DSO, and just as the city of Ghent, for us, that is Fluvius. And with Fluvius, we started to work on a project which is called Networks for Tomorrow. And basically, the goal of this project is to get a bit rid of the more reactive collaboration we have today, where if we have a need, we ask Fluvius to fix the problem that we have detected, and Fluvius then afterwards fixes the problem. We want to go towards a more proactive collaboration with our DSO. And that is what you can see on this map. So in the left, you see the scenario that a reactive collaboration would mean for the city of Antwerp when it comes to strengthening and working on our local energy system. So the more red the grid is colored, the more that needs to be done to strengthen the grid. Now, because of this proactive collaboration and all the data that we as an administration shared with Fluvius, we became to a much more positive map that is lightened up more green. And it means that, well, we can now focus on the real problems that we have detected in our energy grid in the city of Antwerp. Now, to further strengthen and improve this collaboration, we will further invest which stakeholders are missing in this project, especially within our own administration, where we have several sections that need to be involved. We also want to optimize our data and tools together with Fluvius. We want to improve our scenario analysis by installing a digital twin with Fluvius. And then the lessons learned from this digital twin, from this scenario analysis, we wanted to translate this to new policies in our climate action plan that we are currently also actualizing. And we also want to make sure that the lessons learned are translated towards our steering group. In Antwerp, we have a climate council and a whole new climate governance model where we have active involvement of politicians, but also different external stakeholders, the university. And also there we want to translate these lessons learned towards this climate governance model that we have installed in our city. Voila, I'm 1 minute... I've added 1 minute on my presentation, but thank you for your attention and see you later.
Perfect, thank you, Vincent. Yeah, from reactive to proactive, I think it's could be a nice little tagline for what we're trying to achieve here, making sure that cities and distribution system operators are looking towards long-term planning. Antwerp's a really exciting example, Networks for Tomorrow program. Specifically, we're interested to see how it develops. And to hear the other side, to hear from a distribution system operator perspective, I'd now like to welcome Patrick to the stage.
Thank you, Benedict. Good morning, everybody. I will bring the story from DSO perspective. Maybe I can tell who Fluvius is in Flanders. Fluvius is the DSO operator, fully owned by the municipalities of Flanders. The most activities, of the most important activities, are multi-utility. Is in a multi-utility system. Is energy. That's the most important one. There are also other activities, as for example, heating networks, also sewerage, but the most important is electricity and gas distribution. A couple of facts. You see on the screen, we talk about 234,000 kilometer distribution grid. We have about 6.7 million grid connections. We are about 6,000 employees, and on a yearly basis we invest recurrent investments and investments due to the energy transition, about 1.4 billion euro a year. We have also public lighting, about 1.2 million light poles. We also, the metering company, we have in the meantime 3.5 million smart meters, and data management is also one of our activities, and we are working on a regulated market basis. So the vision, what are the important points from our strategy? We are certified great place to work for our employees. We realize together with all our stakeholders, and especially with our shareholders, the municipalities, the things to be done. We try to be customer centric. That's one of our strategic poles, and also we're working now on the future-proof network system for the energy transition. In practice, you see at the left side what the evolution is of our grid. For the moment, we don't have a lot of congestion problems. It starts, but it's not. We can handle it. When we do not prepare us to the future in order to facilitate the energy transition, then within 10 years we will be in a situation what you see on the right side. We have a fully congestion on our grids. So we try to evade, and in order to do that, we start in 2022 a no regret investment plan. It's based on assumptions in what we hear and what we have had on basis of dialogue with our stakeholders. What are the three main points on it? So we have started with the investments as of 2022. Three main points on on the low voltage network, we have an impact of 40%. So we must reinforce the low voltage network, including the connections, some connections. And the second point is, and that it's a minor point, but they must have attention of this. There is an impact of 30% on our medium voltage network. And a last point is we need to have an adaptation of our distribution cabins, and we need also a lot of new distribution cabins. From perspective of urban planning, that's not so easy to fix this. So our plan is based on general assumptions. We try to translate this to the local level, even to the industrial level. So our industrial customers have also plannings. That's what we see today, that it's very difficult to have a forecast from our industrial customers. But we focus now on the translation to the plan on local level. What we try to do, Antwerp and Ghent already said this, we need data. We need data, we have also data. So we try to have an exchange, we try to have a dialogue based on data. So we want to enrich our investment plan with local content. I mean, with public open data, policy, what is the policy of the city or the municipality? What is the planning there on projects, urban projects, but also what are the forecasts, what are the projects about electrical mobility, heating zonings, and so on. So specific local data, we will enrich this, and we have a tool for forecasting and planning of our networks. It's called Engine. You can see it as a digital twin, and with this input, we have a calculation, and we try to have a forecast of what will happen from perspective of the city. Which cable will place in which street on which date? That's what we try to forecast, and what's the basis is of the dialogue. And so we start in 2024 a new service, what we call in Dutch Plan mee lokaal. And in basis, it's an exchange of data from the city, data from Fluvius, and after calculations via our digital twin, we can discuss, we can have a dialogue, as Antwerp presented. In Antwerp, you saw the two maps before, after, and that's the result. We have different levels we must take into account. When we have no info, we have more rural communities, and we have bigger cities. And we have a different kind of input for our system. So you can see the three levels. Antwerp, Ghent are, of course, in level 2. So we have rural, we have a lot of plans, we have GIS-based information, so we can very easily treat in our system. So the result is, as you already saw by Antwerp, this kind of map, which is the start of the discussion of the dialogue between the DSO and the city. We have also learned that two methods. So at the beginning, we start with at random spreading of the assumptions and all what we know about the city. We have changed that in cooperation with the cities to a more controlled or a more directed spread based on a smart algorithm, and we take the information that we know into account. For example, here you see the urban situation in the street, and you see really on household level what is taken into account in the examination and in the calculation that is made. So you can see the flame of you can see the sun, which corresponds with the possibility of solar panels, and you see also a signal or a sign for an electrical vehicle. So that is taken into account. The way I will finish, because I see the timing is fast forwarding. The way that we want to communicate with our municipalities and cities is via a portal. So there we communicate, because the exchange of data is really big. So that's for us the solution, to have a really easy exchange between the city and the DSO as Fluvius. So the lessons learned. I did not mention it on the slide, but data is key. It's key for the city, but also for the DSO. And for us, it's really an advantage that there is work across the departments of the city, because otherwise we have different contact points, and it's make it really easy. The advantages of the benefits for the cities and the municipalities are really high. Also for the DGO, they are also really high. So cooperation, collaboration is really very important. Also, collaboration with all stakeholders is one of the major points for us in tackling the energy transition as a DSO. So, thank you for your attention. And excuse me.
Thank you very much, Patrick. A dialogue based on data is another good slogan, I think, for local energy action planning. We're collecting them as we go. That's great. No, but it's really interesting to see how, with Fluvius and Antwerp, you're working to update the DSO's investment plans with the city plans, kind of harmonizing the two data sets, but also allowing the city to sort of see how the grid investment works through this digital twin tool, which I think is really important visibility for a city as well. So, all right, so we've seen two nice local examples of how local energy action planning works, how a city and a DSO can work together to ensure that all of this information and data is shared and that planning is improved. So the question is, what does that mean on a Europe scale? So we want to make sure that this kind of process is happening in every city across Europe, really. Every city is going through roughly the same challenges of the local energy transition. So we're going to have three speakers who are going to tell us a little bit more of a wider perspective. We're going to start with E.DSO, who are going to talk about city DSO collaboration from a European perspective. I'll pass over to Bruno.
Thank you so much, Benedict, and good morning to everyone. It is a real pleasure for me to be here today. I'm Bruno Souza. I'm the Policy Director at E.DSO. E.DSO, it's an association representing the biggest DSOs in Europe. We have 35 members, including 2 associations. And DSOs, grids, networks, I think this will be the 3 words of the year, of this year. If you go around Brussels in the corridors, you only listen about these 3 things. We already had another words in fashion, like renewables, energy efficiency, phasing out this, phasing out that. But I think that now it's the moment for grids. And of course that we in the past had negotiations around objectives on renewables, on energy efficiency. Everyone now has ambitious targets at national level, at municipality level, and we heard 2 examples here today from Antwerp and Ghent. They also have objectives. objectives for renewables projects, for EVs, to change the industrial processes, to change the heating and cooling systems, city lighting, so many objectives. And DSOs are in the end of this line to make them possible. And what are the needs of the DSOs? They need, first, the right financial tools, dedicated funding for DSOs to make it possible. They also need the stable and secure supply chains. They need the workforce. This is a big issue around Europe at this moment. They also need faster permitting, the right collaboration with the other stakeholders, municipalities also. But now I will focus on today's topic, because I have many people here from E.DSO, and they will say to my boss that I'm not convening the message that I prepared for today. So for E.DSO, what is the big priority when we are talking about this at local level? It's to have a better cooperation with municipalities. Benedict already mentioned here today that now we are moving from a centralized system to a decentralized system. And we have around 80% of the future renewables will connect to the grid distribution. And this is a big challenge, and this is bringing a lot of pressure for DSOs and for the networks. And also because 75% of people are living in urban areas in all our member states. So this is also a big challenge for the biggest municipalities. And of course that we are having more and more delayed grid connections, congestion issues, especially in the Netherlands. This is a very well-known example, and limitations with the grid expansion. So we need to know what are the barriers, what is blocking our cooperation. And I think that the first thing that we need is effective communication, and we heard today municipalities here saying that they are having a really good cooperation and communication with their DSO, and this is really important. We expect to see this more, and not only in Belgium but also on the other member states, because we really need for cities and DSOs to be real connected. Then it's also difficult, the technical knowledge about the topic. Sometimes we don't have the expertise in the municipalities to know about the topic. And this is also time consuming sometimes, because we really need to explain everything, objectives, what is the problems, the congestion problems, everything. So we really need to make this connection and to better pass the message, and to better prepare also the technicians in the municipalities. And the final blocking problem that we identified, and also it was mentioned here today, is the lack of data sharing between municipalities and DSOs. So we understand that we have internal different processes, municipalities and DSOs, but we really need to share the information to move and to have the projects in place. I will move now to the solutions, what we see as it is needed to move forward. And structured dialogue is key for us. We really need that cities and DSOs operating in different frameworks that really have this kind of communication, and to reduce also the burden and the constraints that we are having in place at this moment. Also, we also believe that if we can anticipate the future energy needs, if we can plan in advance, we can avoid costly delays and also to make it affordable for all the consumers. Because in the end, we are looking for affordability. And this is also a fashion word here in Brussels at the moment. And DSOs are also looking at this. Sometimes we are listening from Acer and others that we are not looking for the best alternatives, but we are. But in some cases, we really need to invest in new grids because of the aging of some and other things. And finally, you can see Benedict already shared the QR code from our copper project, because E.DSO is really deeply involved in this cooperation between municipalities and DSOs, and you can see more about this. I will not elaborate more because Benedict in his introduction already mentioned a lot about this. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Bruno. It was great to have E.DSO's perspective in our work. Distribution system operator is going to be a huge part of this puzzle of improving the communication and making sure that planning goes better. Go back one. Another important element, of course, is the need for flexibility within the energy system. We talked earlier about, Bruno mentioned grid congestion is a huge issue that's growing in parts of Europe. And also affordability. So is there ways that flexibility can be applied to make energy systems more affordable and to treat problems like grid congestion? I'm very happy to have the representative for the flexibility industry, SmartEn, here. So I'll pass over to Denny to talk more.
Hello, good morning. Thank you also for having me. As I was standing to wait for my turn to come, I just realized it's been 7 years I'm talking to this Topaz room, so it's becoming my second home. But there is a difference this year. I will be speaking about a different topic as Benedict initiated. It will be flexibility. I used to have the hats of Bruno, so I was defending distribution system operators. So things change over 7 years. There is progress. And maybe also a side note, we are not part of copper project. So maybe a disappointing fact, but nobody is perfect. So we will have other projects, and flexibility and copper at the moment is not really aligned, and I will explain in my intervention. So what is SmartEn? SmartEn is Smart Energy Europe. So basically we are emphasizing the fact to have smart energy, not just energy, and produce more renewables. We represent the flexible demand management industry, so basically all the business ecosystem that manage the flexibility. And you probably heard flexibility has 15 shades of it. I'm speaking only about one. It's demand side flexibility, so from the customer side. And the reason I'm here is because, indeed, we have two main overarching topics over Brussels, affordability, competitiveness. And I would try to actually depict those items and to put it in the local perspective, but having a helicopter view of what's happening in Brussels. And before that, I just want to depict you right away, nothing is perfect also at European level. So demand flexibility today is not fully unlocked. As I'm speaking, there are 70 provisions, so 70 legal provisions in the European legislative framework, but none of them has been implemented. So it's good to have a good legislation to speak about flexibility, but it's not really happening on the ground. So hence, one part of the problem is where is the flexibility and whether we have been using that properly. So this slide, it's kind of comes back to what Benedict says in the first introduction. So nothing that you don't know, is just that we have been spotting energy prices being high in Europe for one reason, and always for the worst one, saying we have energy prices and we need to make it affordable. And that is true. But just before the Iberian crisis, or the blackout, energy prices were used also from the distribution system operators, particularly saying that energy prices is not actually a very bad news. It means that we have the most reliable and resilient network actually in the world. And that turned out to be true until the blackout proved us wrong. We don't know what happened, but just the energy prices per se, it's not necessarily a worst thing. What it is wrong is about the fact that you don't take advantage of it and it's not affordable for everyone. So we depicted this graph, as you see, the blue one scaling up, saying that average electricity price is going up as the renewables are also going up and the demand. So what we should do to fix this? So by using the demand-side flexibility, so the passing this merit order of electricity generation, as you see it in the blue, we made the prediction if you use it and unlock demand-side flexibility properly, then you will have these dot lines, which goes to the orange in intersection with the yellow one, and it shows that the new electricity prices will fall down, and you will use more pure and clean power, actually. So as you see, the generation goes from the clean one to the gas and the coal, as we used to do it, and hence that also kind of explains why the electricity price is going up, because you rely massively on the ancient generation side. Now, hands-on, because we are moving into the future all of a sudden, forget about 2025, this is 2030. So we did a prediction, we did a study, and we wanted to see if supposedly all these 70 provisions I spoke, they are not actually implemented. If it happens that they are fully implemented in the future, what will happen for the energy system? So we saw three main trends. The first one is avoid the renewables energy curtailment, because this is happening on the ground, and that will mean 50.5 terawatt hours. It's massive. So that is also tell us that these are losing this potential right now as we speak. Then peak generation capacity could be avoided by 60 gigawatt, and that is a massive beneficial 2.5 billion savings annually that we are speaking, and we are losing timely. And then most importantly, the connection with the grid and distribution grid is the fact that, of course, we want to have the distribution investments, because that it's a no-regret options, as Patrick rightly pointed out. What we are saying that if you want to do it, but please use the flexibility you already have it, because it's a loss. And if you do that, it just proves in our recollection of the study that you might be able actually to save up to 29 billion yearly. And that's just a massive investment that you could put aside for necessary heavy infrastructure. So this looks good. Now let's move what's happening right now. So how our flexibility can support industrial competitiveness. So as a customer, you are wondering every day, if you have a home like I do, you constantly change things at home. And that comes often also to boilers. And I have still gas boilers because no one could actually or had the knowledge to integrate the electric one, quite surprisingly, but it happens. So we just realized that if you have gas boiler in the market today, it costs only 86 euros. So therefore, even by definition, if you have this electric boiler costing 120 euros and 85 euros, who you would choose? Basically, you would choose the first one. But then in the long run, if you have this distribution or, let's say, flexibility revenues from the grid services, you just realize that you can cut that by 40 euros. And then it brings the price of electricity boilers down, and it costs only 80 euros. So therefore, in the first stance, it looks like it's most expensive, but actually, if you use it wisely and you have the possibility to bid the flexibility or to use the flexibility from the boiler into the grid, then you have a benefit in the long run. On the right side, we wanted to see what is a gas furnace versus the electric furnace, always putting this perspective so you can have an understanding. Same thing happens here. The only thing is that the overall cost is 900,000 euro, but you have a lot of CO2 costs, which are up to 2,100 euros. When the electric furnace don't have any cost of CO2, therefore initially the bill isn't 1 million. But then again, if you make the benefit coming from flexibility, and you will say as a customer, I don't know how to use flexibility to make a revenue, you don't have to. Because most of the time, even for the gas boiler or a heat pump, it can really be the place all kind of stopped working without you even noticing that it is happening. 20 minutes up to 1 day fully. And as a customer, you don't need to change any comfort, or you don't have to change anything, because you have smart devices, flexibility devices, or at best, you have independent aggregators doing that for you. I see I'm running late, so benefit to all the customers. We just depicted also from our membership what it means. So electric cars. Today we make the average how it costs for a proper combustion engine car to have it. And it shows us €2,000 actually. And then we want to make the EV basically to work for us to cost zero money in order to benefit from bidirectional charging. Because indeed you will feed and you will bring to the distribution grid power back. So if the bidirectional charging becomes a reality one day, fully commercially available, then you will have, basically having an EV car will cost nothing. And then we had from basically Voltalis, which is an independent aggregator, and Tico every table, what will be the benefit of flexibility using the heating system? Again, it's the same logic. If you benefit and you bid into the system, into the markets, if they are open, because it turns out they are not, and if they are open, you have the distribution system system operator that activates the market, but if you are not having that capacity available at the moment, then you are not a reliable market actor. Anyway, so this is just a bit what's happening. So I want to bring it down, why I'm here and what is the local benefit of it. We just realized that we are not in any of the planning as a discussion, flexibility and demand-side flexibility, and particularly what is a SECAP, which is a sustainable energy and action plan, energy action plans happening in the cities. And I think there is a major role for us to be involved as a market players, not only municipalities, DSOs, but also the market players, what they have to offer. Because at the end of the day, you need to connect all these projects to the distribution grid. So thanks again. I remain available later on for the discussion.
Thank you, Zeni. If we do a follow-up to copper, I think we will need to make sure we do include some kind of flexibility representation, because I think it's a really important opportunity also for cities to become involved as flexibility providers, but also how they plan for it. Hopefully we can talk about that a bit more in the panel. Okay, moving on. For our final speaker today, we're going to talk a little bit about the role of energy communities and energy sharing and how we can integrate citizens and other very local actors into this local energy planning so that they can contribute and provide to the affordable and competitive energy transition. I'll pass over to Michael.
So thank you, Benedict, and good to see you all. I'm Michal Kuzmic from Czech Republic, one of the places with the highest costs of energy, highest costs of electricity. And very inspiring sessions. We've been talking on a systemic level. And I think it's also important to talk about, let's say, a micro level, because Benedict mentioned the energy transition. I think we are also talking a mindset transition, especially with regard to these smaller actors. I'm talking on behalf of the RESPET project, which is one of those DUT projects that focus on the energy communities and also positive energy districts, because the districts are places where you can make the change faster than possibly on the whole city level, as our colleague from Antwerp's already showed. So you can see some results maybe a bit faster. Yeah, so we are looking at the energy transition from maybe a bit technology perspective, making interventions here and there at our institute. I'm coming from RTO, Research and Technology Organization. And we work with the cities, with the DSO, so with the national level, but also with the low level, with the micro, with the communities. And more, we see that actually there's something happening on this local action group level, which is kind of an association between businesses and cities and small municipalities. And there's already something visible that the mindset is actually taking a momentum. Imagine a country where basically coal was ingrained in the energy production for almost maybe over 100 years. And now over 20 years, you are jumping to decentralized energy. So this is more or less the portfolio, and we are moving from this energy sources planning and so on more towards energy sharing and thinking about how to make the whole system more efficient through actually avoiding the basically the overflows, the surpluses, and matching the production and consumption through energy sharing. And I'm not talking just energy communities, I'm talking also about other kinds of energy sharing, because of course there's no one size fits all in this. We need to find actually efficient formats for this. But the energy communities, they prove something more than just looking on the economy and the efficiency of the energy consumption and production. But they obviously, there's something my colleague just said in a conference 2 days ago, that there's some kind of a love behind it. And I will explain, because there is a great enthusiasm. We have already over 5,000 sharing groups in Czech Republic, and it's less than 2 years since the new legislation was started. There is a few hundred apartment buildings with this, and 40 energy communities registered. Also, I know that maybe it's a bit weird to mention this in Belgium, where RESCOP and of course these initiatives have been running for a long time. But there's obviously a momentum for connecting this with the local energy action planning, and this is actually being visible, because Czech cities, they are a bit conservative sometimes. Maybe in the heating sector, they are used to collaborate with their, let's say, district heating providers. But I think it was very inspiring to hear that there is strategic collaboration between the cities and DSOs in the power sector, because this is not that much witnessed. And this is one of the opportunities when you start to talk about energy sharing. And the municipalities, and especially the small ones, are initiating this because the distances between people are smaller, and they actually have the motivation. It stimulates the dialogue with the DSOs on the local level. So, of course, you can look at the return periods and you find out that the energy sharing might not make you rich, but there's obviously something that attracts people. We had a 2 days conference in Brno, in southern Moravia. And there is a big organization called Union of Energy Communities in the Czech Republic, and it's become a big driver for this. So this combination of actually finding this really something deep in people, this interest in energy sharing, especially with people you know locally on a neighborhood level or smaller municipalities level. So it goes across the boundaries, across the high thresholds that we have. There is a high threshold with, there is no discount on distribution fees. There is basically not so many incentives to start up with the lots of work. Rolf from Bax says that there is a big, let's say, initial investment into actually starting this energy community, and lots of them never appear, but the people go for it anyway. So lots of strong drivers. And in respect, we work with this region, Hradec Králové. There is a statutory city, 100,000 people. And their driver is their local real estate developer. And what we are seeing as an RTO who is supporting the real estate developer is actually that through innovative concept, they basically become visible, and they also, from the bottom up, they create a pressure on the city to start thinking about integrating various neighborhood energy systems into a city level. So this first carbon neutral neighborhood, which is planned as a positive energy district, also, if you ever heard about the concept, look it up. We have a database for it. There's over 100 of them. And they really were inspired and combined with their own initiatives, and actually now they want to turn their former airport into one huge photovoltaic power plant, and basically being a beacon that can actually attract more investment into also energy communities, inviting private actors as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Very interesting question of how we can activate all of these smaller actors and then build them into a local energy action plan. Yeah. Okay, So we've heard from a very local perspective all the way up to the European helicopter view. We've heard about large industrial boilers down to small neighborhoods. It's quite a lot. We're about to go into a panel, but I would first like to get a bit of energy and conversation in the room. So for those of you in Brussels, I'd like you to turn to someone next to you, someone you don't know. What do you think? What was the most interesting thing you heard in the last 6 presentations? What would you like to learn more about in your panel? For those of you online, we'll set up a Q&A. I'd encourage you to put your comments or questions into there. So yeah, to put you on the spot, try and find someone in the room you don't know and have a conversation. 2 or 3 minutes. For the next section. Okay. All right. So we mic'd on? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I hope you had some interesting introductory conversations. There'll be plenty of time afterwards as well in the coffee break to continue these conversations, but good to see so many lively discussions. We're now going to move to a panel discussion format. All my speakers are here. And we'll have the Slido available. So if you have any questions, encourage, including those in the room, if you have any questions, to upload them through the Slido. Okay? So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me on stage. I want to start by talking about the collaboration models behind this. So everyone of you have talked about some need for more stakeholder engagement in some form. So the big question is, how do you organize that? So if we start maybe with the 2 cities, we start with Ghent, for example. So you're working on your local energy action plan in Mariekerke. So who are these new stakeholders that you're engaging, and what formats are you finding to make sure that everyone is aligned in the right time at the right moment? Yeah, slide up. Yeah.
Okay. So as I stated, it's a very new work for us as a city, but the first step, we try to gather information and align our internal services, like the mobility service, the housing service, the service for spatial planning, And they also have a lot of stakeholders, external stakeholders. So by getting to know each other and each other's strategic planning, but also their stakeholders, we try, but that's like planned for next year, to try to involve those stakeholders through their knowledge and their networks.
Okay, so some internal alignment that goes on first within the
Yes.
city, and then the idea is how do you bring in those external actors? You'll see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Antwerp, how is it work? Vincent, how is it working in Antwerp?
Well, as I briefly mentioned, we installed a new climate governance model in 2020 when we adopted our climate action plan. And in this climate model, we work on 3 different scales. We have a climate council, where we have representatives from private sector, from the DSO, but also from universities. So a broad field of expertise. And then on the administrative level, we have what we call climate chambers. We have a climate chamber on adaptation and on mitigation. And there we want to strengthen the collaboration between the different sections in our administration. And then the third level are the climate trajectories. So then we focus on a specific topic. And then with stakeholders, both internal and external, we go deeper into detail, and I think the Networks for Tomorrow can be a nice example of such a climate trajectory.
There's an interesting point there, I suppose, that you're using existing governance structures, right? This climate structure has existed for a number of years. And
well, since 2020, so
yeah.
This is the main model, and we want to integrate new topics that come up into this model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good for cities who already have existing governance models that they can integrate the energy planning through it. Did you have something you wanted to add? Oh, no. Okay, you're looking at questions there. Yeah. Well, actually, I might come to you, Zeni. So you talked about the need to integrate flexibility into these city plans that's not currently involved. So what ways should cities start planning for flexibility, and how should they start incorporating that into their plans? It's often a fairly new topic to a city. So what is your advice to cities to make sure that flexibility is considered in this planning?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So it is new for everyone. So basically, flexibility has been now the main buzzword also after the grids. But for the local authorities, I suppose they see that this is a business thing that the market has to deal with. I think convent of mayors could be one option to discuss with. Or sometimes, because we depend so much about the markets and how the regulatory environment is, maybe we need a connection, or as a suggestion, DSOs to introduce them in this planning model, because it is important, so it will come down to that. I don't see any other. I mean, we need to approach ourselves. We need to do the job ourselves. Nobody will come and ask exactly what is going on, what you have to offer. We need really to be upfront. So I think it's more on our side to do a bit of convincing job, what is the benefit of flexibility.
Okay. And actually, just a follow-up question we've got from the stage here is, do you see a role for cities in providing demand-side flexibility?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Because it depends on all the citizens. So basically, more you have these solar panels, EVs, and more you integrate them into the system, the neighborhoods become more reliable. Then you have to sell it somewhere to interact with the grid. So I think it only has a benefit. And if the city is involved, it makes it easier. I was telling earlier to Patrice, so for me, Belgium is a funny city. I'm using too many fronts or sites, but also in perspective of smart meter or things how a citizen can operate. So in Brussels at the moment, you cannot have a smart meter. So for me, if I wanted a smart meter and to engage, and also to know my consumption, I have to go through the energy community. I have to subscribe, and that's how you get into the system. And that is also sometimes to know the option that the city has to offer to you in neighborhoods.
Yeah. And on the topic of citizen integration and energy communities, I wanted to ask Mikkel a similar question. How can cities support the actors that you're seeing on the ground who have, even with all the barriers, are still interested in setting this up? How can a city streamline this so that they can scale across the whole urban environment?
Yeah, there has been already many attempts for cities to be more active, less active. Some of them really invited private citizens early on and held the initiative, really organize them. Most of the cities in Czech Republic are more conservative. They start with their own buildings and then they see how they snowball if they manage to actually find a consensus internally and start the procedures. So I would say they are a bit cautious. But I would say what works already is that the cities run these awareness campaigns. They start one-stop shops, and that they basically signal early on that they are starting these energy communities or energy sharing schemes open to private partners.
Okay, fantastic. And to the question to the distribution system operators in the room, hopefully there are many cities listening or who would be enthusiastic about starting a relationship or a more in-depth relationship with a distribution system operator. What does a DSO need from a city to make that kind of participation work?
So I think there are two main points. As I said, data is very important. Urban planning of works in the city. What is the schedule of that? How can it fit with the planning of the DSO? So data is important from the side of the cities, but also from our perspective. So we can share that, and then the dialogue will have a result to have a good fit between these plannings. Because a point of attention is also what is the disruption that citizens may see when we don't have the citizens when they don't believe in the energy transition because they are disrupted all the time. Then I think we have a big problem in as city, but even as a DGO. So data is very important. Second point is, as I said, dialogue. A structured way to have dialogue about and a recurrent dialogue, because we see the cooperation on the long term. We are doing long-term planning.
Yeah. So being willing to share data and to engage in these cooperative discussions more proactively. Bruno, is there anything to add from a sort of systemic level? You have access to many more members. Any other needs you see from DSOs when it comes to working on this more integrated partnership?
Well, I totally agree. Data sharing, dialogue, planning, cooperation are key, but also alignment, it's also key in the priorities. Because municipalities are often focused on urban growth and DSOs on grid reliability and also security of supply. And we need to combine this, because if we can anticipate new demand, if we can invest smarter, if we can avoid last hour interventions that are costly than the others, and if we combine all of this, I think we will have better results. And also, we think, and was already given a very good example, networks for tomorrow. We really need to pass from a reactive perspective to a proactive perspective. This will be also key. And also the citizens' engagement, because public acceptance, it's a really big issue, not only for renewables projects, but also for grids. And we need to work in the communities to have this kind of acceptance.
Actually, that relates to one of the questions we were asked, which was asking about how, I think this is to the DSOs, but how to make sure city administrations trust the results that come out of the models. So I think, for example, with you were showing the two maps, for example, of the different congestion issues. So the question is, how do you build trust between a city and a DSO? Maybe it's a question for Patrick.
Trust, I think when the results are coming, the trust will increase. So start with the cooperation and handle the things. Take on the local plans and start with it, and trust will increase.
Yeah, start with the results and the trust will come. Nice. Okay, we have 5 minutes we are here in Brussels. There may be some policymakers in the room or listening. So a maximum 60 seconds each. But if there's a way in which national or European policy could change in a way that would support some of your plans, or regional policy for maybe some of the cities, and what kind of policy change would you like to see to accelerate the integration of actors into delivering a local energy transition? Any of you can start. Go on, Kathy.
Yes, I think in Flanders, a third party must share the cooperation. That's the Flemish government, because we are, as a municipality, very dependent on their legislation. And maybe we are, as a local government, shareholders in the DSO, but they set out the Flemish policy. So we have to collaborate and influence each other on that topic. And for instance, if in Flanders they would set like a date, like in 2035, you can't buy new gas boilers anymore, that would make our work to have our citizens involved, to activate them, to make the right decisions in the energy transition, it would make us work so much easier.
Okay, nice. Anybody else? Go on, Vincent.
Yes, maybe in line with what Kathy said, I think it's very important to engage the cities, the local administrations more when it comes to writing out the legislative work, because ETS2 is coming. The social climate action plans are coming. We want to be more involved because we know what's happening on the ground at the field. And especially in cities, we have many vulnerable citizens that will be hardly affected. I think in Antwerp, almost 70% of the population lives in apartment buildings, so not in single houses. Almost 60% is renting a house or an apartment. So these are people that cannot make the decisions themselves, or if they make an investment, then, well, actually it's up to the person that rents the apartment or the building, but he's not really interested because, yeah, what's the advantage for him or her? So, yeah, involve the cities more in the legislative work.
Great. And maybe 30 seconds from the remaining speakers. Is anything? Go on, Patrick.
I follow Kathy and Vincent. It's really true, but I think it's also important. The word is already said today. Affordability is very important for us as DSO. Also, we must invest a lot. So, from perspective of the Flemish government, empower the local communities, empower the cities, and engage the cooperation with the DSOs. Okay. But also affordability is very important.
All right. Flemish government, I hope you're listening. You've got some things to work on. Go on, Tony.
In one sentence, I don't need more policy. I think we have a lot, particularly in Brussels. I would say incentives. It's not going to happen if no customers, no city have incentives. So if we don't empower and clarify what incentives do you have, what benefits, how it works, it's not going to happen. So incentives for me is the key.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bruno?
So very briefly, at the European level, what DSOs need is that the European grids package, the next MFF, the citizens' energy package can approach our needs that are financial tools, adequate remuneration for DSOs. We also need for this to approach the supply chains, workforce, and faster permitting. If we can approach this in the next packages, it will be very important for us.
And final word to Mikkel.
Thanks. Didn't expect the final words. Yeah, I mean, already this has been an inspiration. So I think just to reinforce, really to have a platform on a systemic level between the DSOs and everyone that wants to actually create new projects towards energy flexibility and energy sharing, because this will go together very soon, according to the legislation, and lower the thresholds for these complex projects, especially the distribution fees, which is very discouraging. So
So it's not only for diehards, so it's for everyone economic-wise.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, big applause, please, for my 6 speakers. Is it possible to have the slides back? Just wanted to let you know that as the COP project, next year we're running an international summit in the city of Ghent in March 2026. And let's see if I have it here. I do. We're trying to bring together mayors, high-level DSO representatives, and climate energy directors of cities. It's going to be a really exciting event. We have the mayor of Ghent on board, I believe, looking at Bram. Yes, we do. So we'd love to get as many cities and DSOs as possible in the room. It's going to be a productive conversation, workshops, and that sort of thing. So if you're interested, please do get in contact with us. The contact details are there. Yeah, please take a photo. You can also follow us, Copper, on LinkedIn. We're working, as I said, on 6 local energy action plans. Antwerp and Ghent are 2 of them, and we'll be sharing our updates there. I will leave it there. Thank you very much for joining. I would really encourage you to continue the discussions you had earlier over coffee. And there's a lot to do, a lot of stakeholders to engage and integrate. And yeah, we look forward to a future of local energy action planning together. Thank you very much.